Why Canadians are paying for other people's carbon. In the past 10 years, gas prices have surged, groceries are more expensive, and carbon taxes keep rising, even though a federal pause was introduced under Bill C-234. But that pause is temporary. The tax is still here, and it might come back stronger than ever. But what if I told you Canadians are paying carbon taxes not just for what we consume, but for what the world consumes? I'm Long. I'm a piping design engineer in the oil and gas industry. And today I want to show you a truth that nobody seems to explain clearly. Canada is paying for other people's carbon emissions. Let's start with the basics. How do we count a country's carbon footprint? There are two ways. First, production-based accounting. This is the current global standard used by the UN and the IPCC. It says, if emissions are released within your borders, you own them. Period. Second, consumption-based accounting. It says, whoever uses the products that cause the emissions is responsible, regardless of where they were made. Now, which sounds more fair to you? Let's apply this to Canada, a resource-exporting country. 97% of the oil we produce, exported. Over 90% of our iron ore, exported. Around 80% of our metals, wood, and natural resources, exported. But under production-based accounting, 100% of the emissions from extraction, refining, and shipping stay on our carbon balance sheet. Even if the fuel is burned in California, the carbon is counted in Calgary. Now let's talk about the carbon tax. Canada charges a federal carbon tax based on emissions generated inside our borders. Oil companies pay when extracting. Farmers pay for heating greenhouses. Households pay on gas, electricity, and heating fuel. Even though most of our production is for export, the cost is added to local businesses and consumers. Yes, the government offers rebates, but let's be honest, the prices still go up. You feel it when you fill your tank. You feel it when you see your grocery bill. You feel it when your heating jumps 20% in the middle of winter. And here's the kicker. You didn't even consume most of the stuff that caused these emissions, but you still pay for it. Let me be blunt. You work harder and get taxed more. For someone else's carbon, that's not climate justice. That's economic injustice. So why does this system exist? Because switching to consumption-based accounting would embarrass rich countries. If we used that system, Canada's emissions would drop significantly. The US, Germany, Japan, and others would see theirs skyrocket. But changing the system means changing who takes responsibility, and nobody wants that. Now imagine this. Canada stops producing oil, minerals, and natural gas. Would global emissions fall? Not really. Other countries would just produce it instead, and probably burn dirtier fuel. So we lose jobs, lose tax revenue, and the planet still loses. And that's the real irony. Canada produces some of the cleanest oil per barrel. Our mining is among the most regulated in the world. Yet we're punished with a high carbon score and a growing carbon tax, all while others import, consume, and avoid responsibility. Now let me add one more truth nobody talks about. As Canadians, we are not guilty for climate change, because when you look at what we actually consume and how much carbon we emit domestically, our land, our forests, and our ecosystems absorb most of it. Canada's vast landmass acts as a carbon sink. If we counted emissions based on net impact, Canada would already be a near net zero emissions country, but that doesn't show up in the international carbon ledger because we're using the wrong formula. Look, I'm not against climate action. I believe in reducing emissions. I believe in responsibility. But you can't fix climate change by punishing the wrong people. You can't build fairness on a broken calculator. So next time someone says Canadians emit too much carbon, ask them how much of that carbon was for our use, and how much of it was burned to fuel the lifestyles of other countries. Until we change the system, Canadians will keep being the world's carbon scapegoat. We dig, we ship, we export, yet we pay, and others consume, pollute, and smile. Let's be honest, the world needs what Canada produces, so why are we the ones getting punished for supplying it? I'm Long. I'm a piping design engineer. I care about facts, logic, and fairness. If you do too, subscribe. Because climate justice should start with accountability, not just accounting.